have any more on that clip, I was going to catch you by surprise this morning.
Okay.
This is a bit of an experiment.
Okay.
I have an issue. I didn't mention it before the show. We normally talk before the show.
Yeah.
This is an extemporaneous response that I want to hear from you.
Okay.
There was a police officer convicted of murder this week.
Yes, I want to talk about that story.
Her name is Amber Guyger. And before you talk, I have a question about this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. After the sentence of 10 years, which is paltry, it's laughable,
Yep.
right, was given, the judge embraced Amber, gave her a hug, and handed her a Bible. I guess this is the only book you need for the months you'll be in prison.
Yeah.
My question to you, and we haven't prepped this at all, is that inappropriate?
It is highly inappropriate. That judge should be thrown off the bench permanently.
Wow.
Absolutely
That's not
inappropriate.
Exactly. Many experts as well agree with you. They say it's not only rare, but it is inappropriate.
Let me ask you this. When was the last time that you've seen a judge hug a convicted African-American male and give him a Bible after he was sentenced to, it doesn't matter, 10 years, 100 years? You know that 10 years is a slap on the wrist.
Oh, it is.
And
it's a weak sentence. It's not even weak. It's pathetic.
Yeah.
But that comparison to a black person going into a white person's apartment and shooting them while they ate ice cream in their own living room would have garnished a lifetime sentence. No, I mean, it's not even hypothetical. Guyger received the weak sentence of 10 years for killing her neighbor, Botham Jean, in his own home while eating ice cream and watching TV.
And where are you reading this from, Jack?
This is from News 1.
Okay.
But what has also disturbed people is that Judge Tammy Kemp giving the convicted murderer a hug and Bible after the sentencing. It was something most people have never seen, and many wondered if a black person would get the same compassion. According to the Washington Post, legal experts say the hug was not only rare, but inappropriate. Kenneth Williams, a professor of the South Texas College of Law in Houston, who has 30 years in legal practice, told the Post she has indicated an affinity or sympathy for the defendant, and that is not legally appropriate. This could cause conflict if Guyger files an appeal and case might need to go to another judge. My feeling on this is that the forgiveness, the Christian forgiveness that was manifested by the brother, although I don't agree with that, I also think Christians are taught that there needs to be justice served, right? I'm not supporting Christianity, but I thought that was part of their tenets, right? For him to display that act of compassion, it's allowable. The judge did allow that, but for her to stick her black robes into it, totally, completely unacceptable.
Not only that, the guard that was in the court was stroking her hair as she was being read the guilty verdict.
Wow. She's eligible for parole in 5 years.
You know what, Jack? I'm going
to...
We didn't script this. I'll mention this. I have actually seen some mutual friends of ours who are we consider progressive, saying that this Amber Guyger should have gotten the needle.
I know who you're talking about.
Yep.
I saw it. I responded to it on Facebook.
Yeah. And I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. That's if you don't know what apartment you're going into because you're so distracted with texting your partner, boyfriend, and making racist remarks on social media or by text or whatever, no, I don't buy that. I'm sorry. I don't buy it.
Don't buy it either. It's premeditated.
The guy had a red rug in the front of his door.
A large red rug.
Yeah.
Totally
You couldn't miss it.
Exactly. She knew where she was going. She knew that he lived upstairs, that he was black, and she knew that she could walk. Yeah. Like all the other policemen have gotten away with murder.
Of course.
We've talked in this show about the proliferation of KKK white supremacists into the police force, which was a stated objective by David Duke back in the 70s. It shouldn't catch people by surprise. And when you see these people murdering out in the open, black people, don't listen to the excuse. I didn't know what apartment I was in. I could walk into somebody else's apartment within minutes. The door's different. Over here on the counter, that's different. She walked all the way through into the living room area, and it didn't dawn on her over the red rug, et cetera, et cetera. That's horse crap. Mm-hmm. She went in there with one purpose. She had a loaded gun. She knew it was loaded. She was going to shoot the guy.
Exactly. And if you don't believe us, we have two very local cases of, at minimum, racism. The former officer now from Muskegon, guy went through his house. The cop was selling his house. He had a KKK application framed and mounted on the wall. We come to find out that this guy had previous interaction with this cop, but I don't think that was any type of revenge or anything.
Right. Has it been substantiated, and in this case with Guyger, that there were tweets, there were comments online?
Yes,
racist
that was put out in the court.
Right.
Yep.
End of story.
And then we have the officer from Grand Rapids who called ICE on a veteran. I think you mentioned it last week on this very show. You don't think that's racism? You don't think racism runs rampant in the police force in your community? You better think again.
Yeah, you better. You're telling me that down in Oklahoma, Darren.
Yeah.
A guy that always wanted to ride in a police car.
Tulsa.
Like a little boy.
This was 4 years ago. Yeah, there's more to that.
Come to find out, he was the biggest donor to the new sheriff's campaign to become a sheriff. Mm-hmm. And he was rewarded, literally, this was not in contention, for a ride to go out.
Was made a reserve officer.
But the thing is, they armed him.
Yeah.
They put a gun around his waist, and guess what he did on the one night out? That this little tin soldier or tin cop had a chance to be a big boy. He blew away a black man.
Yeah. And then said, I was reaching for my taser. I didn't realize it was my gun.
That was his reward. That was his real reward.
Oh, no.
Open night of hunting.
His real reward was he was only sentenced to 4 years in prison, and he walked after 18 months, I believe.
Were they in the courtroom stroking his hair while they read the sentence to him?
I don't know.
Did they give him a hug? This is despicable.
It is. It's pathetic. It absolutely is. I want to hit this real quick because we are starting to run out of time here. You wanted to mention the budget in the state of Michigan. I have this. This is Riley Began and Jonathan Oosting writing for Bridge Magazine. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer on Monday used her line-item veto power to cut nearly $1 billion from the Republican-led legislature's $59.9 billion budget, including spending for schools and roads. The first-term Democrats signed all 16 budget bills at 7 p.m., 5 hours before the start of the state's new fiscal year, October 1. That prevented a government shutdown but upped the ante in a months-long standoff with Republicans over the budget. By the way, she has called this budget, I actually have the quote here. This is what she said in a statement. Quote, I had to use the line-item veto to try to clean up budgets that were a complete mess, build on phony numbers, using funds in the wrong way, usurping executive power. These are important things that I had to eliminate from these budgets. End of quote. Yeah, a mess. Let me remind folks that when Governor Rick Snyder, the stuffed turd, was the governor, those budgets were done months in advance. They were finished months in advance.
Yeah.
The minute a Democrat gets elected to office, we're going to give you these budgets 3 or 4 days before the deadline. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get blamed for causing a crisis if you reject them.
Yep.
I give her credit for using a stiff arm.
Yep.
With a pen at the end.
Yep. Whitmer's office did not immediately provide a full list of her line-item vetoes, and completed budgets were not available through the Michigan legislature. The governor instead only issued a statement explaining some of the cuts, which included a veto of $128 million for what the governor called pork barrel spending in the budget that goes to K through 12 schools. Yeah, you know what that pork barrel was? They're trying to fund charter schools in Michigan.
Yeah, exactly.
Cut the funding. They need to cut, if there's any funding for charter schools, it needs to be cut 100% because that should be going to public schools, not privately owned charters.
Darren, I'm going to make a statement. Southpaws is making a statement. That is the most aggressive action against charter schools in Michigan by a Democrat that I've seen.
Yeah.
Abdul said, get rid of charter schools for profit. That was good, but that's not enough. What she did was the most aggressive action I've seen. Now the union needs to wake up from its lethargy, and it needs to go after charter schools as well. I'm not thrilled with Whitmer. I'm not thrilled with establishment Democrats. The fact her dad was in Blue Cross Blue Shield, none of that really thrills me. This action by her, I give great applause to.
Yep. She also line item vetoed $375 million of the $400 million in one-time road and bridge funding that Republicans had added to the budget after the two sides postponed negotiations over a long-term road funding plan. The majority of that money, $243 million worth of it, would have been restricted for use on 4 crumbling bridges in Dearborn, Ferrysburg, Harrison Township, and Lansing that Whitmer visited earlier this year while promoting her gas tax proposal, which we're not in favor of, by the way. The GOP spending plan included $132 million in extra one-time money for state and local roads, along with an additional $25 million for a local bridge program the municipalities can apply for. It's not immediately clear which portion of the funding Whitmer left intact. In March, she proposed a $2.5 billion plan to raise gas taxes by 45 cents a gallon. Again, we're not in favor of that. What we are in favor of is you need to start raising the taxes on these corporations that are making the money using the public roads.
Yeah.
You need to start with a graduated income tax, and that's going to require change in the state constitution. The more you make, the more you pay, because you're the ones that's making the money off the public. It's that simple, folks. It's that freaking simple, and I can't understand why people don't get it. Do you have any ideas on that, Jack?
Well, I'll tell you, the idea that the flimsy little offer that the Republicans gave for road funding, and you gave me the figure before the show. I forgot it already.
Yeah, it was $375 million.
$275 million, which would pave a Arby's parking lot. Let's face it. And the bottom line monetarily is that you refuse that in lieu of a number that is legitimate and is feasible. That's her strategy. Mm-hmm. It's called political hardball. And I have to give her credit not only for that, but more importantly, is that this woman is standing pretty much by herself. She went down and proposed. She went down in flames. No party let her go and hang over the 45-cent tax increase for gas. Mm-hmm. Good or bad, she lost the backing there. I was afraid that would cause her to capitulate and even weaken and side with the Republicans more than she has. But she hasn't. Michiganders that are listening to this show, that will hear this tape, give her support on her initiative to reject this budget and get one that makes sense.
We don't agree. We don't agree with everything the Democrats do, but we will give credit where credit is due, and we're giving credit to them for this. We're completely out of time for this week. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Jack Prince.
For Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.